What's going on, team? Proof here, and today I'm going to talk about a card that's kind of been blowing everybody's minds from Premium Collection ever since it's been revealed, and that's Rain Elemental Zazan. And it's a Crate Elemental, so everybody can use it since Crays are all nations and all clans. And what it does is it says auto on Vanguard or Rearguard. When placed, you can Soul Blast one, call up to 2 cards that don't have continuous actor auto. So essentially vanilla cards from your hand to your rearguard circle. If you call 2, turn up to 1 face down Storm Element Cyclone from your G zone face up and draw 2 cards. So why has this card been blowing everybody's minds? Well, first of all, it costs a Soul Blast. So a lot of times in Premium, you will be running into decks that don't want to give you or your opponent counterblast, because a lot of cards require counterblast to function, and you'd rather not give your opponent damage if it means saving yourself from certain death. But Zazan here does not use counterblast. All you have to do is use Soul Blast, which means if you use any of the V era starters, so like for in the case of Spike Brothers, new Mecha Trainer, if you use any of those cards, you are able to have a card in your soul already, so you can use Zazan on turn 1 as long as you meet the condition, and so on and so forth. Like if you ride to grade 2, you're gonna have a grade 1 in soul, you can pop off from there. And it's an easy +2, because when you place it, you can call down 2 call down 2 vanilla cards, and then you immediately recoup those and draw 2 cards. So it facilitates aggressive mechanics, and it also helps accelerate your G zone count, because you turn a G zone card face up in your G zone, which means that if you have a deck that uses Generation Break, a lot of the issues with certain Generation Break cards is that you can't activate them early, because you need to be able to start striding or G-guarding before you use them. So the early game is kind of vanilla. So you literally take vanillas into the equation, and now you've vanillalized your early Generation Break cards. So that's really fun and exciting. But the question that's been on my mind concerning Zazan is how consistent are you able to pull it off on turn 1? Because I don't know, that just is something that's more appealing to me than just having the card in and of itself. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to pop up a hypogeometric calculator and talk about that for a little bit, and put in the scenarios that will facilitate Zazan coming up on turn 1. And we're going to calculate the odds on all those. All right, so what you see on the screen here is that you have the hypogeometric calculator, which you can basically just Google a hypogeometric calculator, and then you'll get this website that pops up for you. What a hypogeometric calculator is and does is that it allows you to very easily find the cumulative probability of a certain event happening. And what that means for card games is that we can find the odds of seeing a particular card in our hand at a certain period of time. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to find the odds of us finding Zazan on turn 1 in our opening hand, under the assumption that we completely mulligan all of our cards for it. So say we draw our 5 cards and we don't have Zazan in our hand, we chuck all 5 back, and then we draw 5 to get the Zazan into our hand. And on the other side, I'm going to calculate how many Crate Elementals we need to be able to activate Zazan on turn 1 reliably. So when you have 2 probabilities, you multiply them together to find the cumulative odds of that event happening. So as you can see on the bottom of the screen here, I've just kind of popped up a Google Doc, and I've got across the top, we have how many Crate Elemental or how many vanilla cards we have in our deck. And then we also have the odds of Zazan, which is going to be the same across all probabilities. And then the odds of the vanillas, of drawing the vanillas on turn 1 under the assumptions that we have. And then we're going to find the odds of those. So for the Zazan, if you've never used a hypogeometric calculator before, I'm going to kind of give a rough walkthrough, because I'm still kind of learning it myself, but I do understand it at a basic level. So our population size for our Vanguard deck is going to be 49, because you don't include the starter. So you put 49 here. The number of successes in our population is how many of the particular card or type of card we have in our deck. So in the case of us trying to find Zazan, we put 4 in here, because we're going to play 4 Zazan if we're trying to use a deck surrounding it and accelerate our G zone or G break. The sample size is how many cards we're going to see to fulfill our condition. So if we draw 5, chuck 5 back, and draw 5 more, our sample size is 10 in this instance. And then the number of successes in the sample size that we're trying to find 1 Zazan out of those 10 rifts of the top of our deck to try to find it. So our successes is 1. And then we hit calculate. And now the way to read this is that P equals 1, meaning the odds of finding exactly 1 Zazan is 43%. The odds that we don't draw a Zazan at all, which is the less than 1, is 38%. The odds that we get less than or equal to 1, so we draw 0 or 1, is 81%. The odds that we get more, or definitely more than 1 Zazan, is 18%. And the odds of greater than or equal to 1, which means we draw at least 1 Zazan, is 61%. For looking at this for our purposes and for most card game purposes, we want to look at the bottom probability here of P is X greater than or equal to 1. So you want to see at least one of them. So the odds of us finding 1 or more Zazan is 61%. So we want to put 0.61 across the board here. And now for our vanillas, we're going to operate under the same assumption here. So sample size is 49. Now, as you can see here, I have 4, 6, 8, 10, and go up by 2 up to 20 vanilla cards. Because in my mind, you're not gonna play more than 4 or more than 20 vanilla cards in your deck, because you still want to have things to effectively utilize the fact that you're accelerating your generation break. So that's why I'm gonna go off of there. So for there, and then now the sample size, we need to be able to draw 2 elemental, or why do you call them cray elementals? You want to draw 2 vanilla cards by the time that you have ridden Zazan, and then you drew for turn, and then you drew off of the V era starter. So our population size, in my mind, if you're using a V era starter, is going to go up from 10 to 12, because you are going to look at 10 from the full mulligan, and then you're going to have your 5 in hand. You're going to draw for turn, and then draw for the draw from the starter. So it goes to 12. And now we want to find 2 vanilla cards for the purposes of this. And again, we're going to look at the very bottom probability for the sample size. So if we have 4 vanilla cards in our deck, the odds of us finding 2 of them by looking at 12 cards from the top of our deck is about 25%. So I'm going to put 0.248 in here. And then if you add these two, or not add, but you multiply these two together, you got about a 15% chance of you successfully getting Zazan off if you have those exact proportions in your deck. So I'm gonna quickly go through it for 6, 8, 10, etc., and then kind of show you what the end result is from there. All right, so we've successfully filled in the rest of our little graph here. And as you can see, at 6 vanillas, it goes up to 28%. At 8, it goes up to 34. At 10, it goes to 47. At 10, it goes to 53. At 14, it goes to almost 57, and then almost 59, and then almost 60, and then almost 61. So if we take a look at the biggest jumps from number count to percentage, it starts to dwindle as you go from 12 crate elementals in your deck to 14 and so on. So the jump between 10 and 12 is almost 6%. But then if you go from 12 to 14, it goes almost 4%. And then from there, it goes down like it's a little over 2% from 14 to 16. So at the very least, you're gonna want to be playing 12 vanilla cards in your deck to help facilitate turn 1 Zazan as often as possible. So if your deck can support 14 to 16, I say go that route, because of course it increases your odds without sacrificing too much deck space. But then after that, it kind of doesn't matter as much going from 16 up to 18 or 20, because the percentage increase doesn't really justify the increase in your vanilla cards. So this is kind of like I never did the math on it, but this is kind of Ezel Bowmain territory in terms of the superior ride and how often you could get it off if you chucked everything back to deck and just looked for the bow mains to be able to get you Gareth on time. So now that everybody has access to it, it's kind of opening up everybody's third eye. Like, everybody's been going crazy for deck combinations in terms of how to best utilize Zazan and things like that. So I wanted to provide some type of basis or layout of how many vanillas you can add to your deck and have an idea of the percentage odds of you're going to be able to successfully get Zazan off. And that's kind of that's what's more interesting to me in terms of just, oh, here's this crazy vanilla, or not, this crazy card that makes vanillas better, but my idea is how consistently can you do it. And that's kind of what made me lead down this path, and that's what I wanted to share with everybody. So I hope you enjoy. I hope this little time with Professor Proof was useful to you, because these are kind of things I like to do and dig into more when it comes to card games. But yeah, hope you enjoyed. Hope my explanations were succinct and clear and not too jumbled up, because I do kind of ramble, but as you can see here now. But hope everybody enjoyed. Thanks so much to all the new people that joined up recently. Thanks to Different Fights. Shout out. I really do appreciate it, man. Thanks so much. And yeah, hope everybody that here sticks around and enjoys. So until the next one, peace. Be easy.